it's John from Heroes and Legends, and today is the first day of announcement week, and yeah, we got a pretty big announcement to talk about. Came directly from Mark Rosewater on the Daily MTG site. I will leave a link in the description below so you can check out the article for yourself. I would recommend reading it. There's a lot of good information there. But Mark talks about the future of Magic and the whole structure of sets as we know it will be changing. So we're going to look at all the points he made in the article and give you a quick recap. I'll give you my thoughts on it as well and try to unpack all of this because there's a lot of information here. Now, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll also find a couple ways to help support the channel, one of which is our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases through any links there, a small percentage comes back to help us out. Secondly, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, another way to support us, help us keep making videos. But with that being said, let's get into this new information. And the first thing you can see from the title screen here, core sets are coming back. So what does this mean exactly? Well, core sets will become the summer set again. They will be a large set. Now, of course, not this summer, but this will begin the following summer. Core sets will be making a return, and Mark Rosewater was careful to say that they are revamped. They are going to be a little bit different. However, his description sounded pretty lined up with what we've seen in the past from core sets. He said about 50% would be reprints, about 50% would be new cards. The mechanics and the themes are going to be accessible to new players, so you're going to see simpler mechanics. You're not going to see deep lore necessarily as much as you're going to see maybe backstory of characters, much like we saw in Magic Origins with the backstory of the Planeswalkers, or perhaps a lot of fantasy tropes like angels or goblins, that type of stuff, and pop culture references like zombies and those type of things. Things that new players can kind of attach onto and understand well. And, I mean, that sure does sound like a core set to me, and very similar to what we've seen in the past. But Mark was quick to point out that getting rid of core sets, even though they had their issues in the past, led to different issues. They were great for reprinting cards that needed to be reprinted sometimes. Maybe you couldn't always reprint the most complicated cards that you wanted to reprint, but you could reprint a lot of staples and things like that in a core set. Secondly, you didn't really have a product now for new players to truly gravitate to. For me, as an experienced player, to teach somebody new to the game, it's a little bit simpler and maybe a little less overwhelming. So they are coming back. They're coming back in a big way, it sounds like, in a little over a year. Now, if you have a core set right in the middle of the summer, what does that do to this two-block paradigm? Well, it actually gets rid of the two-block paradigm, and that's what they're going to do going forward. The two-block paradigm will be gone after the Ixalan 2 sets come out. After that, every set is going to be a large set for every standard release, I should say. So, basically that means you will be getting a fall large set, a winter large set, and a spring large set, and of course summer will be your core large set. They will all be drafted on their own individually, so no more mixing up sets for draft, and again, there'll be no small standard releases. Now, Mark did point out that they could have a small set that's maybe a supplemental product. He used Conspiracy as an example, but I'm kind of thinking he was saying, without saying it, maybe an unset in the future. I'd imagine that would be a small set, more so than a Conspiracy set. So the door is always open for that type of thing, but at least when it comes to standard releases, we're going to be looking at big sets. Alright, now, this is directly from the article today, and we already know kind of what's happened in the past. But of course, very soon Hour of Devastation will come out. There'll be a small set. Then we'll have Ixalan, will be the next large set this fall. And of course, you'll get the small set after that, which isn't officially named yet. They're calling it Eggs. Here's the code name. And then following Eggs will be Soup, which will be the beginning of all this. As you can see here, you get a large set with Soup, then the summer core set, then Spaghetti, then Meatballs, all large sets. Now, what does that mean for the lore of these sets going forward, with every set being a large set? Well, you're not going to necessarily have a plane carry over into a second or third set unless the story warrants it. So the way Mark Rosewater described it was, if the story warrants it, you could stay in the same plane for 3 large sets or 2 large sets, but many times it might only be 1 large set. Now, if you do stay in that plane for, say, a second set, the example he used was Kaladesh. Thought this was a good one. He said if Kaladesh was designed in this new paradigm, basically you'd have the first Kaladesh set as a large set. And then if it was to carry over into a second set, something drastically would have to change. And because of that, you would see maybe one mechanic carry over, like say maybe energy. But then all the rest of the mechanics would kind of go away and they'd reboot with new stuff. They'd still want to make this second set very unique and different and interesting. And again, they're not going to interchange these when it comes to the Worlds of Limited or anything like that. So it will be a standalone, complete set. It's just another set that takes place on Kaladesh. Now, you can also look at it as they could simply visit a world just one and done. So this time, maybe we're going to go to Kamigawa, and it's only one set. And I think that's kind of interesting because with that paradigm, you don't have to worry about overcommitting to something you're a little nervous about. So you can take bigger risks, I think, and that's pretty exciting. So for example, Kamigawa is a fan favorite set. There's a lot of players that really for a long time have been looking to go back to that plane. But Wizards has been hesitant because the original Kamigawa block had some issues. It didn't sell super well for them. It was confusing to new players, some very hard to pronounce card names and mechanics and stuff like that. And the mechanics never really clicked the way they wanted them to. So they have been really hesitant to go back to that plane. But now in this new paradigm, you're kind of mitigating your risk a little bit because you're not making a huge commitment. You don't have to go back for 2 or 3 sets. You could simply go back for one set, try to correct things, try to fix it. And if it doesn't work, you just kind of move on. And I think they will be more likely to take a risk like that on planes like Kamigawa or Lorwyn. And we'll have a better chance at going back to some of these planes and maybe seeing a better version of some of them. And I think that's actually pretty exciting. Another thing that is really awesome about this new paradigm is it just simply means that we're going to see more planes, more new planes, going back to old planes more often. And I think that's actually pretty exciting. So I do like the concept here. I do like what they're doing. And I'm even happy to see core sets come back because I do kind of miss core sets. I feel like they finally got it right with Magic Origins. So why not continue that and keep developing that concept a little more? Because I think a lot of good could come from it. Now, when I first heard small sets were going away in the world of Standard, at first I was a little sad. I was kind of like, well, I like the occasional small set and the mixed draft and stuff. But the more I thought about it, and I said to myself, well, what are your favorite Magic sets from history? Usually they're large sets. I mean, there's some exceptions out there, probably like Eventide or maybe Cold Snap. But for the most part, I think of things like Time Spiral, Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, Innistrad, stuff like that were my favorite sets. I think of Innistrad more so than I think of Dark Ascension, for example. So I'm okay with that. I think that's going to actually be a nice change. Now, another change that's coming up involves the Gatewatch. As a matter of fact, the Gatewatch is going to be playing a lesser role going forward in the lore. Now, the way Mark described it was basically there was a little bit of overexposure with some of these characters, and they want to give them somewhat of a rest. They're not going away. And as a matter of fact, you'll probably see at least one of the Gatewatch members probably show up in every set, but they are going to play a much smaller role going forward. And I think that's a good thing too. I wasn't necessarily tired of these characters. I know a lot of people were, but I felt like if you always get the same Planeswalkers, then you don't get a chance to see new ones and explore new ones. So I was actually really excited when we started seeing some different Planeswalkers show up recently. So I definitely want to see more of that. And I'm okay with kind of diluting the Gatewatch a little bit. I wouldn't want these characters to go away, but I'm okay with diluting them a little bit. I think that's definitely a good thing. So that being said, another thing that's being diluted are masterpieces. So, Mark brought up in a very good point in the article that if you can't do something really special with masterpieces, you probably don't want to just force yourself to do them all the time. So, yeah, the first group of expeditions were really amazing because lands are so core to Magic. Even the artifacts were really cool. But then you start getting into kind of awkward territory. A lot of the invocations, we saw some amazing cards like Force of Will, but then we saw some cards that were kind of lackluster. And this is only the third time out that they've been doing these. So they're already kind of starting to run out of ideas. I mean, they could have done maybe Planeswalkers next or something like that. But what they're going to do is actually lay off masterpieces a little bit. Now, Mark said they will still do them in the future when the timing's right and they have a good reason and a way to do them. But they're not going to do them just to do them. As a matter of fact, Ixalan block will not have masterpieces. So that was a little surprising to me because I do feel like masterpieces do help drive sales. Now, the repercussions of this could be if you sell less cards because people aren't chasing the lottery cards, then Standard gets a little more expensive again because less packs are being opened and there's less copies of cards cycling out there. So that's a little concerning to me. I'm not sad necessarily to see them lay off the lottery cards in general because, again, they're fun, but I do think that they're only fun if they're special. And if you get them every set, they were already starting to lose some of their luster. So why not maintain that by making it less frequent? So I think that completely makes sense, but I'll be curious to see if this leads to some higher priced singles in the world of Standard. That's something we're going to have to watch really close going forward and see what happens with that. But those are the main points. The last thing Mark talked about in the article was something that wasn't really a new announcement. He had talked about it before, but I think he just wanted to make it clear that they have hired new folks to work on Standard testing and to focus on the Standard environment when it comes to new sets. Very, very important. Again, it's not new news. We've talked about it before on different videos, but he definitely made a point of rehashing that and talking about that again. Wanted to make sure everybody knows that they are focused on testing and getting the testing right in the future. And like I said, it does alleviate maybe some of the time you'd have to test limited with this new paradigm, but even so, it's not even about that because they are going to have a focus group of people now just working on the constructed stuff. So I think that's really, really important. But those are the highlights of the article. Like I said, check out the description below. Read everything for yourself. There's a lot of good information in there in a way that only Mark Rosewater can really present it. So until next time, as a matter of fact, tomorrow we'll be back. I believe we will have the banned and restricted list update. If there is anything to report there, we will be back with a video and let you know what that update is. But until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.